This is the ThinkBig for the testing team for April 13th, 2021. Today, our ThinkBig topic is OpenMetrics. And I'm going to give a quick overview because I started this issue. So I started this because the metrics reports functionality that we have is driven by OpenMetrics, or it says that it uses the OpenMetrics format. That format was in draft as an open source project for a long time, and I'm guessing 4 months ago, because that's when I created this issue, it got finalized and is an official thing now. Yeah, so it's out of its RC or beta kind of period, and there's an official OpenMetrics standard. So I wanted to think big about how can we expand on this feature. We see some decent usage of the feature. It's a feature that's sitting in premium. I can describe some of the problems that we see people using or trying to solve with it today based on some of the conversations we've had and just what we see in usage and the questions that we get about the functionality. But wanted to open it up and talk about how can we really make this a great experience for somebody who wants to track something as part of their build or test process that we don't let them do today. So that's a quick overview. I'll jump into what are some of the problems people solve. I know GitLab uses this to track gem size or some of the gems that we produce in the build process. I've heard some folks who are doing, there was an embedded processor project that was using metrics for something, and now I cannot remember what it was specifically. But people are using it to track timing of things or performance of things, custom code quality stuff that they want to track over time. There's any number of things that somebody could track, API errors, for instance, basically things that we don't provide tracking for today that you want to see how it's progressing over time or changing against your default branch as part of each of your merge requests. So that's the job they're trying to do with our custom metrics or OpenMetrics solution today.
Is the format standardized enough that we could automatically apply a bunch of statistical measures? Can we provide, because we have like a lot of it is like we compare the diff, right? Of like, our bundle size was this, now our bundle size is this. Could we look at some metrics and say, well, not only between these two, but in the last 90 days of these, here's your variation. Here's your standard deviation. If people are tracking things like, error rates across, we have 700,000 tests. Our error rate is, the error rate here is 0.2%, but we could put that in bigger context. We say that the variation is 0.5%, so 0.2 is normal. But we could do I'm thinking if people are tracking complicated metrics using OpenMetrics, we could sort of get ahead of them and say, oh, well, you're probably tracking something a little bit complicated. We can attach some of these more thorough analysis to it.
I would imagine so. It's built on top of the Prometheus format or Prometrics. So we should be able to just push a lot of that data into some of the existing monitoring tooling that we have today. And that's why I'm really excited that Kevin has joined us. And I'm hoping that that's why Kevin did join us, to see where there might be some crossover with the monitor group here.
Exactly. OpenMetrics has in some ways been a bane of my existence in my previous life at New Relic, because like the promise is so great, but like, and literally every single observability vendor created their own variation. And more recently, people started kind of honing in on like Prometheus is kind of the default. It doesn't claim to be, but in practice it was. And then it's like, why is this OpenMetrics thing taking so very long? So that's my engagement. But frankly, I don't really have any ideas on beyond like, hey, I want to hear what people are talking about when it comes to OpenMetrics.
Cool. Yeah, I think that is something we could solve for, and there might be some really interesting cross-stage opportunities to introduce within the monitoring stage. Here's monitoring for your OpenMetrics from your build system. Yeah, it could be really cool.
Yeah, like actually, I just got off a customer call where they're talking about exactly this. It's how do I understand what's going on with my build system, which is the GitLab CI/CD pipeline. Feels like if in the context of OpenMetrics, if we are capturing and storing data in the OpenMetrics format, this makes that data very transportable, so people can also take it and dump it into their observability platform of choice. Since we don't have one currently, they can do things like if they have a Grafana dashboard, they want to graph it, then it's all standard. It makes it really quick and easy. Not sure what else.
Kevin, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. You were just on a customer call. How would you describe what persona was that customer? I guess which of our personas would they fit into? Or who do we
he is the boss of, I think, Priyanka. So his team is responsible for making continuous deployment, continuous delivery a real thing. He works for a bank, and the bank just hired a new CTO. He came in with great ideas saying, hey, why are we deploying it once a month or whatever it is? Can we deploy every day? But then the systems are not in place. So he hired this guy to try to figure out how to enable the development team to be efficient. And his primary problems, like using GitLab, we have the environment dashboard, but it's kind of crappy. He doesn't actually understand what's going on with how the builds are going, and he can't empower the developers through self-service.
Yeah. And Priyanka is the platform engineer. So if we were talking about Priyanka's boss, they might be the manager, or even director of, I've seen that as manager of DevOps or manager of build systems. There's sometimes some crossover in system administration as well, depending on where your organization might be in their DevOps journey. Cool.
Yeah.
So Priyanka and Priyanka's boss don't know, in this case, for use of OpenMetrics, hey, what's going on in my build systems? How long are things taking? Is that something that they could export to this OpenMetrics and then trend that over time?
I think first thing they want is just to see it in GitLab, because GitLab is their tool of choice, and they would like to visualize it since they're already in there. They want to see the performance and hiccups of their pipelines within GitLab. And a big thing is like it's multiple teams, so it's like how you slice and dice the dashboard views to fit the particular user is an important aspect of it.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I like that use case. That's a really interesting one, I think. So for our original time, because we got started a little bit late today, we only have about 5 minutes left. I have time after I can go over, but before I jump into the next question and we get 6 minutes into 5 minutes left, is everybody else cool with going over, or should we try to truncate this and we can pick it up a little bit later?
I can go till 9.
So your note taker will be, we'll have to jump. I do have one afterwards, but I could be here for the next 5.
Well, let's crank through as much as we can, 5 minutes. So for Priyanka and Priyanka's boss, if they're tracking stuff within their build pipelines or their CI/CD pipelines, what would an ideal outcome for them look like as part of doing this job of I need to track things that are happening within the pipeline over time?
Yeah, where they are at the moment is there's different maturity within the different teams, and his idea is he wants to gamify it so that by making that information visible to teams and visible to the organization, they can kind of stack rank, oh, these teams are doing good, these teams are not doing good, and use that as motivation for improvement. So that people see, oh, we're in the bottom 10, we gotta fix this because we're looking bad. Then go ahead and fix it, whatever is like causing the slowdown, whether it's they're using some tool that's just not good enough, or they are using unnecessary steps. But like competing with speed is, he wants everything to flow smoothly. So lack of failed pipelines is really important, because what's happening is people have trust issues when they're not all bought in. They're like, oh, this thing always fails me, slows me down, so I'm just going to remove this testing portion of it. And so that's a repeated pattern over again. So by understanding what are consistently broken, hopefully like someone like Priyanka can go and address them. So to kind of build up the trust among a bunch of teams that don't trust the system at the moment.
Yeah. So it sounds like, I just want to make sure I understood. If I'm tracking something over time, I want to be able to, so if I'm within the team at this project, I want to see this thing is trending this way or this way, or if it's a binary pass fail, I want to see how often it's failing. Like if it's a job, we can start to find some flaky jobs or inconsistent jobs. And then their manager would want to say, great, here's all of the projects that we cover, the teams that they're associated with. Here's kind of our stack rank for how everybody looks today. And this is where we want to be in a month, see where you can move within the ranking.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And they would want to extract that data in each of their pipelines, or maybe a scheduled pipeline against their default branch, so that they have kind of that baseline, and then be able to present it somewhere, either within GitLab or outside of GitLab.
Yeah, the outside of GitLab, I'm not 100% sure. So for observability stuff, I can see that as a legitimate use case, because, but actually even for things like pipeline, probably, because at the end of the day, the people that look at these dashboards probably all want it in one place, similar to how we just want to consolidate all data using Sysons. Like, yeah, if it's metrics related, it's helpful to just see it all in one place. Therefore, if we've subscribed to a standard format that makes transporting data from one tool to another much easier.
Okay. And then in our last couple of minutes, if we were to implement something like that, or if we were to make it possible to do this with our OpenMetrics or our custom metrics, how would we differentiate from anybody else who's out there? Like, is the secret sauce here, or the killer feature that a customer can do this within GitLab, they can see it within GitLab, they can operationalize it within GitLab? Or is there something else that can help us differentiate from, I can extract metrics out of my build system and present it somewhere? I haven't dug in, but I have to imagine you can do that with Jenkins somehow with a plugin.
Probably. So the format's definitely not the special sauce. Generally, the data holder holds most of the power in these relationships. I don't know. Drew, Parker.
So Drew, you had some interesting thoughts on, can we preemptively do some things for you?
Yeah, usually when I thinking about how to make somebody like something more, either I immediately go for give it to somebody before they ask for it, or like automatic or flexibility. So if we can make the metrics more of, and I know less about the competition for this, but if we can make this, if we can make things like this very easy to consume in, you know, SciSense, whatever, chances are they have some kind of dashboarding software going already. They look at charts somewhere. We're using a popular open standard. It should be super easy for teams to say, okay, the data's here, but this isn't the place I'm going to look at it. I want it here, and I want to get my pipeline data over to tool X with as easily as possible and stop thinking about this. That, I think, generally when I'm thinking about, you know, data features, I think people tend to like that. Engineers, at least. We like APIs.
Yeah.
Do other stuff with it.
Yeah. Cool. We're at time or over time for folks who wanted to hop before their next meeting. I think that wraps us up in a pretty good spot for this abbreviated ThinkBig, though. I'll drop the agenda link into our local chat or into Slack, and folks can contribute asynchronously, and we will do our Think Small version of this next week. Same time.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. It's a great discussion. Appreciate it. Cheers.